It was late afternoon, November 1st, 1914. The First World War had just broken out. Among the turbulent South Atlantic waves on that fateful day, Rear-Admiral Sir Christopher Cradock's squadron cut through the water, a sentinel force in the vast expanse. The Good Hope led the formation, trailed by the Monmouth, Otranto and Glasgow cruising northwest at 15 knots. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows over the sea, John Luce, aboard the Glasgow, detected an ominous plume of smoke on the starboard bow by 16:20. The squadron altered course, drawn towards an unseen threat. Yet, the elements conspired against the British fleet. A southerly wind of force 6 whipped the sea into a frenzy, rendering the main deck guns of the Good Hope and Monmouth useless. The Otranto, ill-equipped for a head-on engagement, faced an impending challenge. By 1640, the Glasgow's captain discerned the true threat, the Scharnhorst, Gneisenau and Leipzig sailing south. These German warships were commanded by the skilled Vice-Admiral Reichsgraf Maximilian von Spee. His crew had been at sea for months, evading Allied warships chasing them. Luce swiftly reported the danger to Cradock as the Otranto and Monmouth turned to support the Glasgow, closing the gap with the flagship. The Battle of Coronel was about to begin. A while back, my email must have popped up in a database, because I have been receiving dozens of daily unwanted emails. Nowadays, personal information is often being sold online to telemarketers, spammers, and data brokers without your knowledge. But there's a solution. Introducing today's sponsor, Aura, the ultimate online security app that safeguards your privacy and identity from all threats on the internet. Aura uses advanced technology to identify data brokers who may be exposing your personal information and instantly submits opt-out requests on your behalf. Plus, it monitors your emails and passwords to ensure they aren't involved in any data breaches on the dark web. But that's not all. Aura's all-in-one app also includes a VPN, password manager, real-time credit and identity theft monitoring, parental internet controls, and protection against malware. It's like having a personal cybersecurity team in your pocket. Say goodbye to junk mail and unwanted telemarketing calls forever. Aura will even opt you out of those pesky lists. Try Aura today for free with our 2-week trial period. Click the link in the description to discover how many data brokers are sharing your information. At the onset of the First World War, the German High Seas Fleet confronted a formidable blockade, strategically implemented by the British Grand Fleet along the German North Sea shore and Baltic region. This maritime confinement necessitated forceful initiatives for the German Navy to disrupt the encirclement. Simultaneously, Germany maintained a notable presence in the Pacific, exerting control over territories such as German New Guinea, the Bismarck Archipelago, and various islands spanning the Solomons, Caroline, Ladrone, Pellew, and Marshall groups. The German sphere of influence extended to Samoa. Notably, in northeastern China, the Imperial German Navy operated a vital naval base at Tsingtao, administered directly by Admiral Meyer Waldeck. Royal Navy Admiral Jerram, stationed at Weihai Wei, aimed to neutralize the German base at Tsingtao. However, before war broke out, the commander of the German East Asiatic Squadron, Vice-Admiral Reichsgraf Maximilian von Spee, had already left Tsingtao. In June, his squadron embarked on a long course, with their final destination being Samoa. After arriving at the remote pagan island, he began initiating the final stages of mobilization for war. Simultaneously, Spee coordinated the departure of his supply ships from Tsingtao to rendezvous with his squadron at Pagan Island, a strategic gathering point. The Emden, another notable cruiser under Spee's command, was summoned to join this strategic assembly. His squadron consisted of the SMS Scharnhorst and SMS Gneisenau, both completed in 1907 as armoured, heavy cruisers weighing 11,600 tons each. Armed with 8 8.2-inch and 6 6-inch guns, they differed in speed, with the Scharnhorst boasting a maximum of 21 knots, while the Gneisenau surged ahead at 24.8 knots. Admiral Patey, leading the Australian and New Zealand squadron, attacked German New Guinea on August 9th, expecting to find Spee's cruisers, but none were present. Patey then redirected efforts to Nauru and German sections of Samoa, anticipating Spee's course towards the American coast. On August 12th, SMS Emden joined Spee at Pagan Island, and Emden was dispatched southward. Spee decided to move his squadron to American waters as Tsingtao became untenable under the Japanese threat of siege. By October, Admiral Patey secured German New Guinea and sailed northward to intercept Spee, and uncertainties about German ship locations delayed the Anzac troop convoy. News of Spee bombarding Tahiti on October 2nd indicated he was heading to America. A subsequent intercepted radio message confirmed this. The primary role assigned to Spee's light cruisers within the larger context of naval strategy was to function as commerce raiders. Among these cruisers, the most infamous proved to be the Emden in the Pacific Theater. Others, such as the Königsberg off the East African coast near Dar es Salaam and the Karlsruhe in the Atlantic, undertook similar roles. The light cruisers SMS Leipzig and Nürnberg were believed to be operating around the American west coast. The SMS Dresden was believed to be operating from the eastern coast of Brazil. The light cruisers, SMS Leipzig, SMS Dresden and SMS Nürnberg, varied slightly in tonnage, but shared a main armament of 10 4.1-inch guns and a maximum speed of 24 knots. The Leipzig and Dresden, weighing 3,250 and 3,600 tons respectively, maintained this speed, while the Nürnberg slightly lagged at 22.5 knots. The British, realizing the threat to crucial sea routes, especially around the Panama Canal and Cape Horn, sought to intercept the German squadron. The Falkland Islands, a British outpost with coaling facilities and radio stations, became a focal point for defense. Commander of the 4th Cruiser Squadron in the West Indies, Rear-Admiral Sir Christopher Cradock received orders to base his fleet in the Falklands. He sailed from Halifax in Nova Scotia, making his way to the Falklands. His imposing HMS Good Hope, a 1902 armoured heavy cruiser weighing 14,100 tons, drew criticism for its perceived undergunned status, armed with two 9.2-inch and 16 6-inch guns. The vessel had been commissioned with a crew of 90% reservists hastily assembled to meet the rising storm of war. Similarly, the 1903 armoured cruiser HMS Monmouth, condemned as unfit for service until recently recommissioned at 9,800 tons, faced scrutiny for its exclusive reliance on 14 6-inch guns. Both shared 6-inch gun casemates, likely impractical in adverse sea conditions. In contrast, the agile 1911 light cruiser HMS Glasgow, at 4,800 tons, boasted a versatile armament of 2 6-inch and 10 4-inch guns, reaching a maximum speed of 25 knots. The converted civilian liner, HMS Otranto, an auxiliary cruiser weighing 12,100 tons, featured 6 4.6-inch guns, achieving a maximum speed of 18 knots. Recognizing the inferiority of his fleet against von Spee's swift and heavily armed ships, Cradock urgently requested reinforcements. Instead of a modern battleship, the Admiralty dispatched the aged pre-dreadnought battleship, HMS Canopus, to join Cradock's squadron by mid-October. The obsolete 1897 battleship, at 12,950 tons, with 4 12-inch and 12 6-inch guns, moved at a limited maximum speed of 16.5 knots. Cradock, fully aware of the odds stacked against him, expressed his concerns to the Falklands governor, Sir William Allardyce, just before setting out to confront the German threat. In a solemn moment, he handed over his medals and provided a forwarding address for his personal effects, conveying a somber premonition: "I shall not see you again." Meanwhile, the German cruiser Dresden headed south in the Atlantic, intending to round the Horn and join Admiral von Spee's squadron in the Pacific. As news of Spee's squadron approaching South America, Cradock's instructions were altered, and he was ordered to send 2 cruisers and an armed liner to engage German shipping off the South American coast. Cradock's force sailed through treacherous waters, a mismatched assembly of warships, some untested and others deemed obsolete. On the opposing side, von Spee's German squadron managed to link up with the Dresden, Leipzig, and Nuremberg. They anchored at Mas Afuera, just north of Valparaiso, Chile. Spee's surroundings seemed devoid of threats as long as he kept his squadron united. Just 24 hours after departing, he received encouraging intelligence. Cradock's cruisers were patrolling independently, unaware of the lurking German squadron. Moving south along the Chilean coast, below Valparaiso, von Spee altered his course upon learning that the Glasgow had anchored in Coronel. International law mandated the Glasgow's departure within 24 hours, prompting von Spee to position the Scharnhorst and his light cruisers at the northern entrance and the Gneisenau at the southern. However, the Glasgow slipped away before reaching these positions, leaving the German squad 40 miles north of Arauco Bay, with the Dresden 12 miles astern and the Nürnberg further delayed by searching neutral vessels. The tension escalated as the Canopus lagged behind due to technical issues, and Cradock, lacking precise intelligence on von Spee's location, pressed northward. Both admirals believed they were closing in on a single light cruiser. However, the reality was starkly different. The Glasgow's captain deciphered the truth. The Scharnhorst and Gneisenau lurked with the Leipzig. Faced with a critical decision, Cradock could have retreated, leveraging his advantage in speed and sea room, or sought refuge with the Canopus. Yet the elusive von Spee and the uncertainty of future encounters swayed his judgment. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the two squadrons closed in, unknowingly hurtling toward a confrontation. Among the turbulent South Atlantic waves on that fateful November day, Rear-Admiral Sir Christopher Cradock's squadron sailed. The squadron formed a search line, with the Good Hope leading, followed by the Monmouth, Otranto, and Glasgow. As they cruised northwest at 15 knots, John Luce, aboard the Glasgow, spotted smoke on the starboard bow by 1620, altering course toward the potential threat. However, the elements conspired against the British fleet. The sea, whipped by a southerly wind of force 6, rendered the main deck guns of the Good Hope and Monmouth unusable. The Otranto was ill-equipped for a head-on engagement with the German armada. By 1640, the Glasgow's captain had already identified the true threat. Swiftly reporting the presence of the Scharnhorst, Gneisenau, and Leipzig sailing south, the Otranto and Monmouth had turned to support the Glasgow. The Glasgow closed the gap with the flagship, covering 50 miles in mere minutes. Cradock had a chance to escape to the south, possessing ample sea room, and von Spee remained unaware of the British armoured cruiser's proximity. Furthermore, the German squadron's maximum speed was limited to 14 knots, and even when the Scharnhorst and Gneisenau reached full speed, the British maintained a slight advantage, except for the Otranto, which could have used the impending sunset to her advantage. At 1700, the Good Hope, Monmouth, Glasgow, and Otranto formed a single line ahead, steering southeast to quickly bring them within 6-inch gun range of von Spee's squadron. However, this direction placed them in a sea where it was impossible to effectively use the Good Hope's and Monmouth's main deck guns. Cradock's decision to include the Otranto in the line remains perplexing, as it seemed more logical for her to stay clear to the west. Nonetheless, Cradock, concerned for the Otranto's safety, signaled at 1850 that he couldn't engage the enemy while leaving the Otranto vulnerable. The Leipzig identified the Glasgow and Monmouth at 1647 and later recognized the Otranto and Good Hope. Von Spee swiftly ordered the Nürnberg and Dresden to join him in pursuit. At 1804, the British squadron turned toward the enemy, only to be thwarted by von Spee, who realized the danger of engaging when blinded by the setting sun's glare. At 1818, Cradock radioed the Canopus about his intention to attack, but the battleship's position was relayed when the forces were still 2 miles outside the range of their heavy guns. Von Spee waited patiently until 1900, with the British ships silhouetted against the afterglow, to signal his force to open fire at 12,300 yards. Disaster unfolded for Cradock's squadron. The German armoured cruisers, Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, unleashed their devastating 8.2-inch guns against Glasgow and Monmouth. The Leipzig's attempts to engage the Glasgow proved futile due to the range, while the Otranto, not designed for naval warfare, began a swift retreat. The battle unfolded in a storm of steel and fire. Scharnhorst's third salvo disabled Good Hope's forward turret before it could fire. The Good Hope suffered serious hits, fires erupted, and the Monmouth, hit in her foremost turret, burst into flames. Despite other British ships returning fire, the indistinctness of the target and the difficulty in observing the fall of shot minimized the effectiveness. Leipzig and Dresden engaged in a duel with Glasgow. By 1945, both the Good Hope and Monmouth were in distress. Luce steered the Glasgow between both ships and engaged the Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. He scored direct hits against both ships, with a fire breaking out aboard the Scharnhorst. In return, one of the light cruisers blew a 6-foot hole in Glasgow's waterline. Meanwhile, Good Hope suffered constant direct hits from the Scharnhorst. Having lost the ability to steer the ship, it slowly sailed towards the Germans. Each time the Glasgow fired, the entire German line returned fire. By 8 p.m., disaster engulfed Cradock's squadron. The Good Hope, battered and ablaze, succumbed to the relentless onslaught. Everyone aboard the ship, including Cradock, died. The Glasgow, having been hit at least 5 times, realizing the hopelessness of the situation, sped away, leaving the stricken Monmouth to its fate. While the Glasgow increased to full speed, the Monmouth, listing badly, could neither fight nor flee. The Nuremberg sailed close by the Monmouth, opening fire. Due to Monmouth's heavily listing, it was unable to return fire. Launching constant shelling and inflicting heavy damage, the Germans shone their searchlight on the ship to allow it to surrender. However, its captain refused to lower her colors. At 21:25, the Glasgow observed a searchlight flicker below the horizon, witnessing the tragic end of the Monmouth with 75 flashes of firing before silence fell. The ship capsized, with all its crew aboard. The Otranto, having escaped the immediate chaos, fled westward. The Canopus, still distant and unaware of the unfolding tragedy, continued its pursuit, only to receive news of Cradock's defeat. Recognizing the Canopus's vulnerability and the German superiority, its captain turned back, leaving the Glasgow and Otranto to navigate the treacherous waters alone. Vice-Admiral von Spee, having achieved a decisive victory, relished the moment. With command of the Southeast Pacific secured, he savored the triumph that came at a surprisingly small cost, owing in part to the poor quality of British ammunition. As the moonlight bathed the scene, he signaled his ships, expressing gratitude and satisfaction for a battle that would echo through the pages of naval history. In total, the English lost Admiral Sir Christopher Cradock and 919 officers and men aboard the Good Hope. HMS Monmouth lost 735 officers and men. Aboard the Glasgow were merely 5 wounded. The Germans suffered merely 3 wounded. It was a resounding victory. The Battle of Coronel marked Britain's first naval defeat since 1812 and the first squadron defeat since 1810. The surviving British ships Glasgow and Otranto escaped. Glasgow, heading south, alerted Canopus, but the latter faced mechanical issues. Otranto circumvented Cape Horn. The Admiralty ordered the surviving ships to Abrolhos Rocks, to the northeast of Brazil, where a new force gathered. Despite Spee's victory, he was pessimistic about the future. He understood the implications of his victory and the inevitable reprisal it would cause. Britain's new task force, including more modern battlecruisers, was tasked with chasing von Spee and taking revenge for Cradock's demise. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please leave a like, it really helps out the channel. If there is a topic, battle, or person you would like to know more about, let me know your thoughts in a comment. I would also like to thank all my patrons and channel members for their generous support. If you enjoy House of History and you want to support my work, consider joining me on Patreon. For just $1 per month, you will already gain early access to all my videos, without any in-video advertisements. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.